Did you know? In the earliest examples of Medusa, she was not a woman turned into a monster, just simply a monster with a hatred for men. St. George is actually not the original saint of his legend. Originally, it was St. Theodore who slew the dragon. In his last stand, Blackbeard managed to shatter Lieutenant Maynard's sword with his own. For those who are unaware or deluded by modern cinema, this is an act that requires an insane amount of strength to perform, and the likelihood that the lieutenant was using a dull or battered blade to make it easier can be ruled out. Emperor Nero actually removed the general in charge who had routed Boudica because he was not supposed to sack Britannia in the manner in which he did. Ushiwakamaru should have the added anti-giant trait because in his youth he slew many giant men. One such example is the slaying of the massive bandit chief Kumasaka, which is commemorated in a no play. Alexander was able to quote the entire works of Euripides from memory, but never once made a Euripides nuts joke, likely because he didn't speak English. Marie Antoinette never said let them eat cake. This was likely fabricated by revolutionists to paint her image much worse than it was. The Tarrasque, the St. Martha tamed, died from being ashamed of his past actions, making it the most relatable fate character. Francis Drake left a brass plate somewhere along the northwest coast of the Americas that essentially claims all of it in the name of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth I. This plate was believed to have been found in the 1930s, but was discovered to be a hoax in the 70s, meaning that it is still out there, probably. Bonus Iskander 1. After his beloved horse Bucephalus died of what was believed to be old age, Iskander named the city that he was in Bucephala. It is a Japanese tradition to decorate a newborn boy's room with Kintaro-themed goods on Children's Day, as it is believed that it will help the child grow strong. This is only semi-related, but something I found interesting because of artwork depicting Kintoki. Catfish can predict earthquakes with 80% accuracy. We do not know what Ozymandias would have looked like because his mighty works were destroyed by time. One of the very first known instances of anthropomorphization of Ketz was a flying snake with a beard, making this image historically accurate. In his later years, Columbus attempted to sue the crown, claiming that they contractually owed him 1/10 of all the riches of America. This was denied, however, as the contract was annulled after the crown had fired him from his governorship position for being a horrific bastard. Ivan the Terrible died of a stroke in the middle of a chess match. A dispute about who would obtain the armor of Achilles led to the death of the hero Ajax. Ryoma's assassination was one of the substantiating factors that led to the execution of Shinsengumi leader Kondo Isami, only for it to be later revealed that a different pro-Tokugawa group had committed the murder. In the historical record, it is said that red hair was ridden by Lubu into 193 battles. Reina's and Kaina's names in Japanese are only one character different. Da Vinci's earliest memory, according to him, is having a kite, the bird, not the object, visit him in his cradle and open his mouth with his tail. In his early years of pirating, Bartholomew Roberts was initially forced into the occupation. However, he had two skills that made him incredibly valuable to his captor and then employer, Captain Hal Davis. Bart was an incredible navigator, and he was also Welsh. The majority of Mandricardo's story is him attempting to act like a savage warrior while his love interest, a woman named Doralis, sways him away from it. Europa is a descendant of one of Zeus's other lovers, namely, which isn't even the weirdest aspect of the pair's relationship. Also, both Io and Europa are moons of Jupiter. Odysseus once discovered Achilles cross-dressing by presenting gifts to a group of girls. Among the gifts were weapons, and only Achilles examined them. This is how Odysseus managed to recruit him to his side. Nemo hates the British as much, if not more, than Lakshmi Bai. He's also amazing at the organ. Habitrot's foot should resemble that of a duck if her design was more accurate. The reason why Tai Gong Wang left court life originally is because he couldn't stand the Emperor or Daji, aka Tamamo. He found them and their actions so insufferable that he pretended to have gone insane and was exiled to a perfect life of just fishing. Also, Tai doesn't use a hook while fishing because he believes fish will come to him when they are ready. Dobrynya defeated a dragon with a hat. It is unknown why, but Constantine had no wife and was unable to produce an heir. Bakin had a short stint as a samurai, but for a variety of reasons could not keep a job as one. His longest run was for 3 years, after which he left, claiming that he was dissatisfied with his lord. Huang Feihu and Benienma have the same job of being guardians of hell. We actually do not know the fate of Medea. It is widely believed, though, that she went to live on with the Aryans. Hansa's biggest fear in life was being prematurely buried alive, and this thought prompted him to say that upon his death he wished to have his throat slashed to make sure that he was gone before he entered the ground. We don't actually know what Shakespeare looked like. There is no evidence pointing to Shakespeare ever commissioning, so it is entirely possible that we have what are essentially what people may have thought he looked like or remembered what he looked like rather than an actual visualization of what he was, making Faith's portrayal possibly canon. You can actually visit the house where the tale of Faust supposedly occurred. Despite being a musical genius, Mozart was unable to wrap his head around how to make a trumpet sound good. This is why there are almost no trumpet pieces attributed to him. It is believed that Waver will be summoned by Iskander's noble phantasm after he dies. There are two reasons why we have so little information about the Druids and Druidic culture. One, they didn't keep any physical records, and two, those that were kept were destroyed by the Romans in the Iron Age for not conforming to their worldview. Alice in Wonderland syndrome is a mental disease that causes you to believe that certain parts of your body or external objects are bigger or smaller than they actually are. Paracelsus is where he first received the thought that something that can kill you in large quantities may be helpful in small ones, hence how we now utilize various harmful substances in medicine today to cure ourselves. While Babbage is most famous for him inventing the prototype for computers, he also invented the cowcatcher, which was put at the front of trains to clear away small objects, which was revolutionary at the time. That said, while he was the first, his initial idea on it was not used. Helena Blavatsky's favorite meal was a hard-boiled egg floating in a pool of butter. Thomas Edison once saved a 2-year-old boy from getting hit by a train. Edison was 14 at the time, selling self-made newspapers at the station. The boy's father was actually the station master, and out of gratitude taught Edison how to use the telegraph, which first started his spark of imagination towards electricity. It took about a fourth of the entire US Army at the time to hunt down Geronimo and nearly 5 months to find him. The original design for Irisfield was discarded for being too cute. Somehow that doesn't apply to her current design. Sanzo is often portrayed by a female actor in shows and theater, so her portrayal in Fate being a woman is in fact a continuation of a long-standing inside joke. Think of it like the Wilhelm scream but for Chinese theater. Nitocris may not have been a real person, but rather serving as an apocryphal tale regarding betrayal. Despite the fact that he is more commonly known as Da Vinci rather than Leonardo, Da Vinci is not his real last name. Instead, his modern name simply translates to Leonardo of Vinci. Nasu has commented, albeit jokingly, that Ilia does in fact have a route. It's called Prisma Ilia. This is because Ilia had originally had a route planned where you could cuck Sakura for Ilia instead, but it would have pushed development back by 6 months. Merlin has only one weakness: the babes. At present, the Queen of Sheba's exact origins are unknown. However, a prevailing theory that is yet to be discounted is that she was from the Yoruba. The only standing argument against their claim is the datings given are a little bit odd, but so are all of them in the Bible. For Circe, she has this attack animation. This is reminiscent of how she created the sea monster Scylla. Scylla was a maiden who turned down the offers of love from the sea god Glaucus. He asked Circe for help, but she fell in love with him instead. He did not requite the love, and so Circe took it out on Scylla. She poisoned the pool where Scylla bathed, and when Scylla went in, dogs exploded from her sides. Scheherazade has potentially been in storytelling hell for more than 1,000 nights because people continue to add to the collection of stories that she supposedly told. Despite how he is portrayed in Fate, Avasprand's expertise in golemcraft all come from a singular source, and the golem that he made was a female to assist with household chores. What he was more known for was his poetry being incredibly influential for his time. The very first homunculus was created by Paracelsus, meaning that when Sieg and Paracelsus meet, it would be the equivalent of us meeting the creator god. Anastasia was known to put rocks in her snowballs. Skadi was not originally a god, but rather a giantess who married into godhood. The sword that supposedly killed Shuten Doji is still in existence and is considered a national treasure in Japan. Miyu's eyes were originally red and gold, but because she wished to be a biological sibling to Shiro, her eyes changed to match as proof. Murasaki thought that Sei Shonagon's works were too pretentious to be enjoyed. Asclepius discovered the secret of immortality by watching snakes. Chen Gong had to remind Cao Cao that he was required by law to kill him. All of the clothes that Crane makes are created from her feathers. After she was decapitated by Sanson, a carpenter picked up her head and slapped her across the face. The carpenter was imprisoned, and it is said that the head looked incredibly offended at the notion. Izumo founded Kabuki on the two tenets of humanity: religion and horny. Before reaching Japan, Daikokuten was a god of destruction. After reaching Japan, he mellowed out a lot and became a fertility deity, which is why the rats actually say breeding in the game. Zhang Zhu was recorded in history as being a magician who led a rebellion against paying taxes. Kozuro's Tsubamegaishi has yet to be fully replicated. At present, people can pull off 2 of his 3 hits in the allotted time. Everybody already knows that his cursed arm belongs to Satan, but did you know that canonically, Cursed Arm Hassan picks up every single one of his dirks that he throws after a battle is over? Senna was the most lethal of the Gorgons. You may laugh now. Jinkei once convinced a man to kill himself so that she could take his head to the Emperor. So I think Fate may actually have some confusion around Sanson. The Samson that we summoned claims to be the one who executed both Charlotte Corday and Marie Antoinette. The issue with that is that they were executed by different people, both named Charles Henry Sanson. It was Sanson Sr. who executed Corday and Sanson Jr. who executed Marie. Eric, the titular Phantom of the Opera, was a globetrotter, making it as far out as Vietnam. Matahari was nearly a victim of grooming by a school headmaster, but her godfather removed her from the school once the headmaster's intentions were revealed. Vampires have long been a writing motif to symbolize homosexuality, and Carmilla herself is a lesbian. Despite what anybody tells you, no, we have not identified Jack the Ripper yet. Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice in Wonderland and by connection the inspiration for nursery rhyme, is one of the suspects for being Jack the Ripper. This adds a whole other dimension to their friendship. The creation of the story that we know of as the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is fascinating. The original manuscript for the story was supposedly burnt, and the author Robert Stevenson rewrote the entire thing again while bedridden over the course of 3 to 6 days. In theory, Mysterious Heroine X can get pregnant because she is not a summoned servant, but rather an alien from a different dimension. The English VA for Kiritsuka Emiya, Matthew Mercer, refers to Kiritsuka as his favorite role even after years of working on Fate Zero. Here are some of my favorite of the 100 personas. Doctor Eater, Bug Keeper, Light Legs, Neighbor, Closed Area, Marble, Cedar, Hoop Master. The tale that Fuma Kotaro killed Hattori Hanzo by trapping him in a canal and then setting it on fire is a lie. The concept behind Serenity is actually a real thing. There exists in Indian mythology a concept called a Vishakanya. These were girls that through an unknown process were able to secrete powerful poisons from their bodily fluids. They would often be given as a fake peace offering to powerful leaders in order to assassinate them. Cleopatra is often misrepresented in fiction for being a vain and arrogant woman who relied on her looks to maintain her power. Her portrayal in Fate is actually done fairly accurately to history portrayed to some degree, because she was, in fact, an incredibly bright ruler who directly engaged with political and religious issues in her realm. Bonus fact, the fact that I would even dare critique something that with a passing relation to Rome guarantees that at least one ancient Roman fanboy has started typing in my comments. Hassani Saba once captured an entire fortress with just a buffalo hide. Yan King is actually just as eligible for the archer class as he is for the assassin class. One of his weapons of choice in the water margin was a slingshot-like bow, which he was deadly accurate with. Wu's fear of ghosts comes from the historical record of her claiming that ghosts of her former enemies that she'd killed would show up in her bedroom at night. I say that this was in the historical record because supposedly the hauntings were so bad that Wu had to change the location of the Imperial Palace to try and get away from them. Chiyome created such a successful network of kunoichi that it is believed that if Takeda Shingen hadn't mysteriously died, he may have actually halted Nobunaga's forces in their tracks. Danzo once swallowed an entire ox in front of a crowd of people. The only reason why Semiramis has any passing relation to lustfulness was due to Christian propaganda. There is a huge number of these, but perhaps the most well-known one is her portrayal in the Divine Comedy by Dante, placing her in hell in the Ring of Lust. It is important to remember that if we took every person's belief in what hell is literally, then Helltaker should be in the historical record. After successfully killing 3 potential assassins as a bodyguard, Okada Iza was thrown out of Kyoto for having tattoos. You and me both, man. After his incineration, Kama was brought back to life at the behest of Parvati, but was not given a physical form. Thus, the sense of love was able to disseminate across the entire cosmos. So now, when someone says love is in the air, just remember that she's watching. The color gray is spelled with an A if you're in America and E if you're in England, giving Servant Gray an honorary American citizenship. Kichi Hogan's family heirloom was called the Rikuto, which was stolen by Ushiwakamaru, who learned the military techniques inside. Who else could be the author of such a text than Taigon Wong himself? December is fox breeding season. Hu Yan kept losing allies because the bandits that he was fighting against were more welcoming than him. That's gonna be it for now, guys. Do all the YouTube stuff. If there's a historical fact that you would like to share with me, put it down in the comments now. Check out my links for my Discord, Twitch, and Twitter. But for now, guys, keep your chin up. Peace.